Hey everyone! To do something a little bit different today, we are going to be talking about an ancient Greek woman who was killed for teaching philosophy. Should be quite an interesting one. Let's just jump into it. The format of this video was inspired by a YouTuber that some of you may know called Ocean. If you don't know him, check out his channel. I'll leave a link below. He's a really amazing guy. We met at Faithless Forum and became like the best friends super quickly. And he's just one of the most genuine, lovely, smart people I've ever met. He is a polytheist, so we don't agree on absolutely everything, but just as a person, I think he's absolutely fantastic. I should say, his channel is very undersubscribed and very underwatched, and he deserves a hell of a lot more for what he does because he's kind of amazing. But he recently released a video titled The God Who Defeated Yahweh, and I absolutely loved his style of storytelling in it and just kind of the approach that he took, and it kind of really inspired me to make this video talking about a topic that, or rather talking about a woman who I find really, really inspiring. So I want to kind of give him a shout out to start this off, kind of say thank you for inspiring me. That said, me and Ocean, we're really good friends, but we kind of show that friendship by absolutely ripping into each other constantly because we have the same sense of humour. So if you do go over and check out his channel, just leave him a comment saying that he sucks or something and say it's from me. Thanks, guys. Today's video is going to be about an ancient Greek philosopher called, and I'm probably going to butcher the pronunciation of her name. I looked up a few sources, and it's either Hypatia or Hypatia. Different people said different things. I think I'm going to go with Hypatia because that was the most common one that I saw. She was a philosopher, a mathematician, an astronomer, essentially a scientist for the time, and she was killed because she was so brilliant, but also killed in the name of religion. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I thought about, like, philosophers in the past, especially when it came to, like, ancient Greek philosophers, I've always just pictured a bunch of old white men sat around, they're probably rich, they're drinking wine, they're acting like intellectuals, and, like, trying to outsmart each other. Like, that's what I had in my head constantly. And so I kind of wish when I was younger someone had told me the story of Hypatia, because I guess I always found it a little bit inaccessible before, and I didn't really think it was for people like me. But Hypatia's story is one that really helped change my opinion on just philosophy in general, and I find it really inspiring, which is why I wanted to share it with you guys today. It's thought that Hypatia was born around 350 AD, although some say it could be as late as 370 AD. Her father was a man called Theon, and he was a professor at the University of Alexandria, and he encouraged her from a super early age to study maths and astronomy and philosophy. He was really, really big on pushing education on her. Even though she was a woman, it wasn't really thought of at the time. He basically treated her exactly as he would have if he'd had a son. I guess in this case I see a hell of a lot of myself in her, because my parents aren't exactly well educated. We don't come from some fancy background. We'd never had a lot of money as a family. My parents both left school at 15, and my mum works in a shop, and my dad used to do like factory work and stuff. And me and my brother are literally like the only people in my family who've ever been to university. We're like, you know, proper first generation students. But despite all of that, my parents constantly taught us from a young age the importance of education and learning and to question everything. They really fostered my love of reading and would answer all the questions that they could, and when they didn't know something, they'd buy me books to teach me instead. And so for that, I think I'll always be grateful to them. Alexandria at the time was at the centre of culture and education, but despite this, women were mostly focused on raising children, nursing the sick, preparing food, just like being in the home. It was very patriarchal in that respect. Hypatia, being an absolute legend, she didn't want any of that. She's like, nah, not for me. I'm going to focus on my education. I'm going to focus on my career. And I love her for that. She wanted to be, and she was, a respected academic at the University of Alexandria. It's thought she was perhaps the first woman to have any kind of role like that at the university, which, again, amazing and inspiring. She was never married and instead focused her life on her education and furthering her career. I reckon she made the right choice because she was absolutely brilliant, and she would have been wasted if she hadn't followed this path. She was one of these people who wasn't just gifted in like one specific field, but she had a huge range of skills and knowledge. She knew about mathematics and astronomy, geometry, algebra, religious philosophy, the science of the day. She was a gifted writer, very articulate in her speech. She was absolutely fantastic. One of her big skills was being able to understand these big, complex topics and explain it in a really simple, basic way so that anyone could understand it, which I think is one of the most important skills you can have. It's all well being able to speak with like big terms and big fancy words, but being able to take a big, complicated topic and really simplify it down for everyone, I think is probably one of the most important skills a person can have. And probably one of the most important skills for education as a whole, you know? One of the things I love about her is that instead of just sticking to the university and teaching there, she was known for giving these impromptu lectures in public. And this is where this skill really comes in, because she would literally just walk through the streets of Alexandria and she would lecture people in the streets on these big complex topics about mathematics and philosophy and science and so on. And she wanted to reach as many people as possible, and people would understand her because she would speak so simply and so articulately. That's the word, right? Articulately. Yeah. But she just knew how to express herself in a way that everyone could understand. She wasn't just allowing education to be for the privileged few, but for anyone who wanted to learn and listen. Another thing I really admire her for is that a lot of accounts say that she was quite a beautiful woman, but she never let people pigeonhole her because of that. She could have very easily just been kind of like, you know, a wallflower, you know, staying to the side, staying in her place. But she never let anyone diminish her achievements just because she happened to be beautiful as well. She never essentially let her beauty hold her back. It was just another part of her. And she was like, okay, well, this is how I was born. But this is what I've worked for. And I kind of love that about her. There's an absolutely hilarious yet disgusting story about her that I've read a few sources talk about, and I really, really hope it's true because, oh my god, it's horrible and brilliant. But it's said that Hypatia had quite a few students who had crushes on her, and there was this one in particular who was like constantly trying to like declare his love and be like, you know, I love you, you're amazing, and she found it quite distracting, right? Because she's there trying to teach, she's trying to give these lectures, and here's this boy being like, oh, I love you, and you're so pretty, It's distracting, yeah? So the story goes that apparently this one day, he's there professing his love for her, she gets fed up of it, so she whips up her skirt, pulls out her rather bloody sanitary protection, throws it at him, and says something along the lines of, and I quote, "Your love is just lust, and you have no idea about the reality of women, so here it is. Now you ought to be cured of your obsession with me." This is just the most disgusting yet hilarious thing you've ever heard. She's like, look, you have no idea what, like, a woman is really like. You only know what you see, so here, this is what being a woman is really like. Take this and get over me. And apparently it worked. He stopped being obsessed with her and started to see her as more than just the looks, you know? So, it's disgusting. I wouldn't recommend you do it today, but at the same time, kind of a hilarious way to prove your point. I also really respect her because while she spoke out against certain religious beliefs at the time, she also seemed to be pretty respectful and very tolerant of other people's religions. So at the time in Alexandria, a lot of people were pagan, but Christianity was becoming more and more popular, but it was still fairly new. A lot of people converted to Christianity purely out of fear, because they were worried they'd be persecuted if they didn't, but there are still a few people holding back, I guess you could say. Hypatia was one of these people. She was a pagan, and she wasn't going to hide that fact. That said, a lot of the people she taught and worked with were Christians as well, and they respected her. So she was kind of respected by both pagans and Christians in equal measure, which was pretty rare at the time. That said, religion is kind of where her problems start and end. The thing about having a lot of pagans and Christians respect you, and being a very intelligent person, and being very, very well thought of, means that you tend to have a lot of influence with the government and big political figures at the time, right? And she did. However, as she got more influence, more Christians started to have a problem with her. A lot of it was down to like, oh, she's influencing so-and-so, and then so-and-so said this, and then so-and-so said this, and we think she's influencing like this, and me. It was a lot of like, he said, she said stuff. But another big issue that a lot of Christians had with her was that they saw her as what they called a stumbling block, who was getting in the way of more people converting to Christianity. A lot of sources say that a lot of these big concepts that she was teaching to people about mathematics and philosophy and so on were directly in contrast to what the Christian church was teaching at the time. And because she was taking these big concepts and explaining them really simply to a wide range of people, she was essentially teaching that Christianity was wrong to the masses. And so people thought if she hadn't been so smart and articulate and well thought of, more people would have converted to Christianity. And that's why the Christian church at the time hated her. Do you see why this is ridiculous? She was fighting ignorance and punished for it. They were like, oh, if you weren't here educating people, they'd stay ignorant and come to our side. Seriously! So the Christian church hating her and these kind of like political reasons and people thinking she had influence with so-and-so and so-and-so, it all came to a head in 415 AD. There was a notable bishop in Alexandria at the time who went by the name of Cyril, and he took a major disliking to Hypatia. He finally got fed up and he ordered a mob of monks to kidnap her off the street, and what happened next is horrific. So some of you might not want to hear this bit, just to warn you. They dragged her through the streets and they tortured her. They took her to a church where they scraped her skin off with oyster shells. They burnt her, they stripped her naked, they beat her with tiles, they stoned her, and they literally tore her limb from limb until she was dead. Cyril claimed, or tried to justify, that he did this because she apparently directly opposed Christianity by representing idol worship. Later, Christian writings portrayed her as a witch and said she was evil. It's thought that Hypatia's death was kind of almost like the turning point when people really started turning away from paganism and towards Christianity in Alexandria. It's unclear whether this was because she'd stopped educating them or because they were now converting out of fear. It's unclear. But it's said that after her death, and I quote, Alexandria was destroyed as a centre of culture and learning by religious intolerance. To say, a lot of people say Christianity is this religion of love and peace and tolerance and whatever. They got there by torturing and killing a woman. And for his part in torturing and killing her, Cyril was declared a saint by the church. Hypatia, meanwhile, has been labelled a martyr for philosophy, and while her death was horrific and unnecessary, it means she's never going to be forgotten. Many people since have seen her as this figurehead in the fight against Christianity and Catholicism. They see her as a role model who stands up for women's rights to education and for free speech. Overall, I think she's pretty amazing, and that's why I wanted to talk about her today. She was an impressive character. The fact that she was easily one of the smartest and most intelligent people who rose to the top in a patriarchal society is a big screw you to anyone who says, look, women aren't smart, or women can't do this, or meh, 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 meh. When you get people like Laurie Alexander who think that women are useless compared to men, and women have never done this, and women have never done this, go check out my video on that, by the way. When you get people saying things like that, bringing up someone like Hypatia is a massive screw you to them because it just proves them wrong and proves that there are capable, wonderful, incredible women out there. The way that she tried to educate everyone and not just a privileged few, the way she'd explain big, complex topics in this easy, digestible way is something that I find so inspiring, and I really look up to her for that. I also think she is a pretty perfect example of some of the damage that has been done in the name of religion over the years. It really shows the way religious beliefs can slow progress. Her death should be seen as a warning to all of us to not let that happen ever again. Sadly, I worry it is happening again now, and it absolutely breaks my heart. The way we see people killed or stoned in the name of religion because they happen to be gay or transgender, the way we see people trying to stop abortions and prevent abortions and reducing the amount of time you can have an abortion, not because that's what the science says, but just in the name of religion. It's ridiculous, and it is holding us back and it's slowing us down, and I don't think it's right to just sit back and let it happen. But anyway, I probably rambled quite a bit. I'm going to end this here, but I'd love to know your thoughts on Hypatia and her life and what happened to her and what you think of her as like a role model. Let me know if you want to see more of these kinds of videos where I kind of like tell a story from history and then talk about how I feel about it and how I think it's kind of relevant today and stuff like that. And also go check out Ocean's channel because he's absolutely amazing. Oh, also before I go, thank you so much to everyone for all the amazing support on the last video. All your comments and your kind words meant so much to me. Just thank you so much. Anyway, I'm shutting up. Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much to everyone supporting me on Patreon this month, with a special thank you going to Data Jack, Gambit and Chauffeur, Lives Pantyhose Addiction, Christian Berg, Jadeon Sheppard, Robert Korte, Peter Kyrouac, Sir Michael Moore, Christina the Atheist, Christian Opitz, Sage Villarreal, Greg Ladd and Loren Hart. You and everyone else supporting me on Patreon is absolutely amazing, and I wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thank you so much. Wasting my time listening to songs you wrote about